Thank you. Agenda item number 1, apologies. Have we any apologies? Alderman Burns.
Alderman Barr.
Right, we don't have any other apologies. Thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item 2, declaration of interest. Is there any declaration of interest from the floor, or if members are happy to declare them as the meeting progresses? Happy enough to progress? I think that's okay. Fine, thank you. Move on to agenda item number 3, environmental health report. This is a decision item, and it's an increase in fixed penalty accounts applicable to litter and dog fouling offences. And I am going to hand over to Elizabeth to present this. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. This is a decision item regarding options to increase fixed penalty amounts applicable to litter and dog fouling offences. New regulations came into operation on the 30th of December 2022, which give power to Council to increase fixed penalty amounts for the offences of littering and failing to pick up dog fowl above the current maximum of £80, which was previously set by Council in 2015, to a potential upper maximum limit of £200 for both the offences of litter and dog fowl. Members will be aware that the fixed penalty regime is a means to allow an individual who may be charged with an offence to discharge their liability for that offence within a set period of days. And this means that legal proceedings will not be initiated by the enforcing authority. The purpose of a fixed penalty regime is to deal with alleged offences quickly, without the cost or burden of legal proceedings on all parties. Where an individual then does not believe they have committed an offence, or indeed choose not to discharge the liability, they can decide not to pay the fixed penalty notice and instead have the matter dealt with through legal proceedings in the Magistrates' Court. Members in making the decision this evening should consider a number of factors. Obviously, the appearance and effect of litter and dog fowl on our pavements and in our public parks and spaces is highly objectionable and a risk to health. It has a wide economic and environmental impact, as well as increasing council costs and requiring resources to collect and clean up. Members this evening in their decision have an opportunity to increase the current fixed penalty amounts, supporting Council's zero tolerance approach to environmental crime. This would increase the deterrent effect and provide financial support to Council as a contribution to the cost of litter and fowl clean-up and engagement activities. However, members in their decision will also need to consider that the penalty should be proportional to the offence, and should the penalty become too excessive to be effective in terms of discharge of the liability, this increases the non-payment rate. This will then add cost in legal processes and may also be disproportionate to the average fines issued by the court when legal proceedings occur. And currently in the cases that we've taken to court, the average fine would be in the region of £80 to £100 plus a summons cost and a offender's levy. It's also relevant for members to consider the fixed penalty is set at an amount that is reasonably affordable, recognising the impact of inflation pressures upon individuals and the current cost of living crisis. So due to the high number of fixed penalties issued, we need an effective regime. The payment rate of fixed penalties must be high, and the amount set should seek to balance these factors. As such, the paper sets out a number of potential options for consideration. Number 1, to not increase the fixed penalty amount and retain the £80. To increase the fixed penalty amounts for both littering and dog fouling offences to the maximum of £200, which is a 150% increase upon the current £80. To increase the fixed penalty amount for both littering and dog fouling to £120, which is a 50% increase. Or to increase the fixed penalty amount for both littering and dog fouling to another amount as members decide between £120 and £200. The officer recommendation is at the £120, and that is to maintain a high payment rate and to maintain what we have, which is a highly effective fixed penalty regime. An increase in the fixed penalty amount will require a lead-in time for communications, review of signage, etc. And as such, a proposed implementation date of the 1st of July is suggested as a reasonable time frame. Under the financial and resources implications, so if the regime is effective with a high payment rate, then council potentially will receive some additional income from increased fixed penalty amounts, dependent on the amount set and the number of fixed penalties issued and the resultant payment rate. Members will also be aware that any change or increase, there will be costs associated with replacement signage, documents and communication material. So the recommendation to members tonight is to consider the options presented, and if they so wish, to increase the fixed penalty amount from under the 1994 litter order for the offence of littering, the 2011 Clean Neighbourhoods and Environment Act for the dog fouling offences, with a proposed commencement date of the 1st of July 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We have a couple of lights here. Alderman Mutry.
Thank you, Chair. And I thank the officer for the very detailed and comprehensive report which has been brought before us tonight. Despite the best efforts of the Wise Enforcement Company and council officers, littering and dog fouling still is a serious problem within the borough. I dread to think if we hadn't employed the private company to act as an enforcement agency, really where we would be. But there are some people who still do not take the message seriously. And given that the current level of fixed penalty notices were set in 2015, I think indeed we have to increase them at this time. And especially now that since the start of the year, we've had the ability through legislation to do so. I take on board everything that the officer has said. And I would propose that we go with number 3 option, and that is to increase the penalty for both littering and dog fouling to £120, which is, as has been said, a 50% increase. The one thing that I would want to add is that we have the ability to review this within 1 year, because if people don't get the message within a year, then we need to look at it again with a view of increasing it further. But I appreciate the work that has been done by both council officers. Indeed, I had a council officer out last week in Lurgan, in relation to a primary school, Kingsford Park Primary School, where this is prevalent at the moment. And when you have primary school children coming out with it on their feet and on the mother's prams and things, it's even more repulsive than normal. So it is. So we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to support our officers and the Wise Company in getting to the bottom of this and eradicating, because it's totally unacceptable. So as I say, I'm glad to propose option 3.
Thank you, Alderman Mutry. Alderman Baxter.
Thank you, Chairman, and can I thank the officer and welcome to the committee tonight as well in a new role. And thanks for bringing the report to us tonight. Yeah, quite happy. I think that's a fairly sensible suggestion from a colleague, Alderman Mutry. Given what has been said and what impact that this could have, to do second option 3, there's nothing gets people more fired up than we talk about dog fouling. And I've been in this council since 2011, and I would say it's mentioned 3 or 4 times a week to me personally, and nearly at every environmental services committee. And look, it's a countrywide problem, it's a UK-wide problem, and it's something we're never going to eradicate. But I think, if we can get the message out there that if you are caught, you will be fined and fined heavily. It is disappointing to me, I suppose, as an elected member, and it's difficult to catch someone in the act, especially. It's easy to catch people littering because it happens quite regularly. I know the amount of cigarette butts that, that people have been caught lately with ways is probably disproportionate to everything else that goes on in the borough. But like, not very often do I get constituents ringing me about cigarette butts, but very often, and only today, I had people ringing me about dog fouling. And in particular, I don't know if members are aware of the new policy that road service in their wisdom have adopted, where any back paths around housing developments and housing estates that have been lit up for paths where people walk their dogs for the last 30 and 40 years, a transport NI in their wisdom have decided to do away with those lights and take them down, in effect, and improve the lighting on the main streets. And I know Donna Clooney has recently had an upgrade with street lights, but it's the back paths where this problem is. These paths are now not lit. And the last few weeks, the problem of dog fouling has got worse because people are doing it in total anonymity. You know, they're in darkness and people are running the gauntlet around those back paths. So it's a bizarre policy from road service, I have to say, but we are where we are with it. I know the Permanent Secretary has been written to. I know Carla Lockhart, the MP, writ to the Permanent Secretary about it, but not prepared to change on that. But that is added to the problem of this. The dog fouling in those areas at the minute is horrendous. And I don't know how as a council we tackle it. But I think, again, we need to refocus on it. And with this increased fine, you know, it doesn't take long if you get a couple of fines out. The message doesn't take long to get out into the communities that, you know what, we're not going to stand for this anymore, and there's a zero tolerance when it comes to dog fouling, because it's an age-old problem, and every member here will be in agreement, I'm sure, that this is something we're not going to eradicate, but certainly something that we need to look at again and refocus our efforts and double down on it. So quite happy to second the proposal that Alderman Moody put forward this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Baxter. Alderman Kennedy, you're looking in.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Elizabeth, for that report. I was just a wee query regarding the fixed penalties. How many of the fixed penalties in the last term ended up in court, and has there been any increase in the ones going to court from the cost of living thing had hit?
But Paul, do you want to come in there?
Thank you, Chair. Approximately 30% of our fixed penalties are not being paid, and ultimately they're going to legal proceedings. Not all of those 30% of cases are eventually heard in front of a magistrate. Sometimes there are summons issues. Sometimes people are no longer at the addresses that they live, and sometimes the details can be a little bit difficult to verify. In terms of an increase in the number, no, we're not noticing a substantial change just in terms of immediate cost of living pressures.
Thank you. Just another wee question. The dog fouling, going by the wise figures there, the dog fouling is still very, very low detection rate. There's only a handful there here and there. Is that correct?
I can again there.
Yes, Chair, thank you. We've always known for years that dog fouling is particularly difficult to catch. And indeed, whenever the experts from WISE have come in, they have the same situation with all the contracts that they run, and they're finding it no different in this borough. I think there has been some good successes. This year, we've served quite a number of dog fouling penalties in rural areas, particularly in response to complaints and member information that's coming into us, and intelligence from members of the public in terms of when these offences are happening and who's likely to be the culprit. So we have had what I would consider some significant successes there. Is it on a par with the amount of penalties that are being served for litter? No, absolutely not. Let's be clear about that. It's not at all. But it is known that dog fouling is a much more difficult offence to detect.
Thank you, Paul. If I can ask a question, the details across the borough that WISE are picking up on these fines, can those numbers be shared with all members, just to let them know for WISE? Are you happy enough with that? Right. Thank you, Paul. Councillor Johnson, you looking at it?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we'd be quite happy with the proposal to go with option 3. I think it's reasonable in terms of the times that we are living in, to not charge people too much, but also act as a deterrence to the problem that we do need to sort out. And maybe down the line, possibly we could use that extra income from the fines to sort of maybe increase evening patrols or something like that to sort of catch people out, because I think it is more prominent evening and dark night times all year round. So we'd be quite happy with that proposal of option 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson. Paul, do you want to come in that again?
Yes, absolutely. Take the point entirely. Just to make a quick comment here in relation to nighttime and evening patrolling. That is something that we do through our own enforcement teams, but also through our partners with WISE. So as I say, that is something that is done. Nighttime, very difficult to gain sufficient evidence that would stand up in a magistrate's court during nighttime hours when it is actually dark. Periods of dusk and low light are somewhat easier, but it is true to say it becomes increasingly difficult during nighttime hours.
Thank you, Paul. Happy enough that, Councillor Johnson? Thank you. Councillor Thoman, you looking in?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, I think having spoken to the public about the potential increase in fines and to support Council's zero tolerance approach to environmental crime, of course, I believe there's a strong appetite among the public for people to be fined an increased amount than what is currently being charged. And I think what also is important is that Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful supports the proposed increase in fixed penalty notices of up to £200 as a necessary piece of the jigsaw in the range of approaches to tackle littering. So I think with option 3, it is a sensible proposal. And if needs be, we can review this again in 12 months' time. But I think to coincide with any increase, I think our efforts should focus on how we can motivate people to change their behaviour. So I would like to see, some social media campaign, leading into the 1st of July. So if those comments can be taken on board, I'm happy to support the proposal as it is. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thoman. Paul, do you want to come in that?
Yes, Chair, and thank you, Councillor. Yes, it is our intention to release quite a bit of publicity around any decision that is made here, and obviously we will seek to use that as a deterrent to try and really persuade people who are still doing this that they need to desist given the level of penalty involved.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Macaulay.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you. I think we're very much supportive of option 3 as well. I would probably be a wee bit harder handed and go for the top line, but I think at this point I'm happy enough with option 3. And I think it is just, again, imperative that we keep pushing our campaigns against, and I see that the latest one was the rural litter as well. It is a big problem, and I think as well maybe to remind our WISE officers as well to make sure that they don't forget about the rural towns and villages as well, because I'm getting inundated with a lot of complaints lately. But it's the same people that are doing it. They have no regard for other people's welfare or anything. So happy enough to support the option 3 tonight. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Macaulay. Just one other wee item. Recently, I was at a meeting with DFI Roads, and we were talking about the dog filing and littering as well. And the template that we have on the footpaths has clearance. Going by their talk that night with them, they were saying that should not be happening. So can anybody give me an answer on that, please? That the template should not be put on the footpaths. Thank you. Elizabeth, do you want to take that?
Thank you, Chair. We'll maybe bring that back. It certainly is something that we've used fairly effectively in some of our campaigns, and they are temporary marks on the pavement, but we'll certainly come back to that when we get more clarity from DFI.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Sorry about that. We have a proposal and a seconder, and I don't see any other hands up, so we're happy enough to go with that. Agreed? Right, thank you. Right, we move on to item 3.2. It's an information. And Paul, will you take this?
Thank you, Chair. Just the opportunity to give members an update on some of the legislative changes that have come in. The Waste and Contaminated Land Amendment Act, Northern Ireland 2011, replicates the discretionary enforcement powers which are available to the Northern Ireland Environment Agency under that order. And this principally deals with fly tipping of waste, the handling of controlled waste, and then a duty of care provision in relation to waste production as well. I think it's important to note, as I say, these powers have been in place for a number of decades with the Northern Ireland Environment Agency. A waste amendment bill was brought forward and made into law in 2011, replicating those powers for councils. We were caught somewhat by surprise by the department by the commencement of this piece of legislation that has been on the statute books for 12 years. So, as I say, there are still some preparatory works being done in relation to how we will actually implement these powers. A brief summary of the offences themselves, then under Article 4 of the order, it is to deposit controlled waste or to knowingly cause or knowingly permit controlled waste to be deposited in or on any land unless a waste management license authorising the deposit is in force and the deposit is in accordance with the licence. In layman's terms, that is a fly tipping offence where you're depositing waste on land without permission to do so. There also are provisions under Article 4 in relation to treat, keep or dispose of controlled waste, and that would probably deal more with disposal by burning or burying or various other chemical treatments that may actually take place on waste, and where that is being done in the absence of a proper waste management licence. Article 5 is a somewhat different power, and it places a duty of care on persons who are producing or dealing in waste. And it is to ensure that that waste does not enter the illegal waste stream, and it requires various documentation and records to be kept in order to prove that the waste is being handled appropriately. Councils are meeting to try and produce a coordinated response to the implementation of these powers, and there are a number of they are discretionary powers, and there are a number of options immediately available to us in a broad category, and we will work to refine those. Firstly, clearly, because they are discretionary powers, we have the option not to use them. We have the powers to use them in limited circumstances where serious environmental impacts are occurring or are likely to occur. We would also have the option to fully investigate all fly tipping offences where there is sufficient evidence to link it to an individual. And fourthly, the other option would be to develop a process to investigate all alleged waste crime offences below the 20 cubic metre threshold, where the fly tipping protocol would suggest that councils should be involved in quantities below that. Clearly, there will be resource implications and costs associated with which approach we take. The removal of fly tipped waste from land as well needs to be costed and worked out, and just in terms of how many incidents there are likely to be and what pieces of land they are likely to be on, and what the expectation for council would be. It is understood that there is no funding intended to be provided by the department in relation to this matter, as these are discretionary powers. But as I say, dependent upon the level of required implementation, there may be significant resource requirements for the council that couldn't currently be met. So it is proposed that we will take a further paper back to council with detail once we have worked through some of those issues and have some clearer information for you. We will also, as I say, work with other councils to try and have a coordinated approach to this problem, which does extend across the region, the borough, and indeed internationally as well. So as I say, this is an update paper for you for information purposes, but just outlining those legislative changes for your benefit.
Thank you, Paul, for that. Councillor McLennan.
Yes, Chair, thank you for letting me in, and thank you, Paul, for the comprehensive update paper. I suppose a couple of questions. The fact that it came as a surprise from the department, I mean, is there any particular reason around that would be my first question. And I suppose the second one would be, you mentioned the conversation that's gone on across all of the 11 councils in Northern Ireland. I mean, I suppose, how is that going is the question. And are you know, is there likely to be a unified approach from all 11 at the end of your discussions? Thanks, Chair. Thank you.
Come in again, Paul.
Yes, Chair, and thank you, Councillor. No real understanding of why it came as quite a surprise for us. It really was just quite out of left field. I think there was maybe pressures at departmental level to get this done and out the door very quickly, and maybe there wasn't an awful lot of opportunity to speak to local government. It was a bit of a surprise. That said, look, we're working through the issues as they've been presented. Yes, we are meeting regionally. Certainly the initial discussions are that a coordinated approach is desired, and it is what we would hope to achieve. And certainly that would be my aim in those discussions. Because, as I say, the issues, extend right across the borough, and indeed some of the trade and waste and the removal of waste is across the borough. It's not necessarily arising in this borough and ending in this borough. So yes, look, we're working hard for a coordinated approach.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor McLennan, you're looking back in again.
Yes, Chair, thank you. And Paul, thank you for the answer. And certainly in terms of the problem that we're talking about, in terms of fly tipping, of any waste, really, it is an absolutely horrible problem. And there needs to be something done about it, and so on. It's hard not to think that someone within the central government department thought, right, here's an opportunity. It's been on the statute book for a number of years. Let's farm it out to council. Therefore, that's one less line in our budget. So it's difficult not to think along those lines. And I suppose the other comment I would make, I mean, hopefully a unified approach will happen across the 11, because I think that's one of the only ways that we as local government have a way of getting some form of pushback against this in terms of what we're happy with and what we're not happy with, because there seems to be quite a bit of abdicating of responsibility going on here from the government centrally. But I'm not sure whether those are questions or comments, but it would be some thoughts anyway. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McLennan. You happy enough with that, Paul? Right. Just a couple of points myself, if we can raise them. Bernie Roberts in the countryside. Has there ever been any convictions from council towards these actions? And as I said, it's a lot of these things would be taking place after 5 o'clock, and they know then that nobody from council can come and take these actions against them. That's one point. And the other thing too is, what happens if NIEA don't act on a report that has been given to them for fly tipping? There's one particular case now and it's been ongoing, and I've been following it closely, and still nothing has been done. But as I said, can anything be done against NIA? I'll hand that back to you, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll maybe deal with your second point. First of all, the legislative changes that have been introduced don't give us any power to direct the department in terms of their role. But I do share your frustration sometimes in terms of lack of perceived progress on such matters. In relation to your first question and burning of material in the countryside, we do actively investigate a lot of these cases. There aren't a very large number of service requests with that particular aspect to them. We have maybe had one prosecution. I'm just straight off the top of my head. It would be one prosecution in perhaps the last 5 years. At the end of the day, we would normally approach in an informal manner, first of all, and issue warnings, and that normally tends to bring about compliance. And in terms of sort of being out of hours and so on, well, we do catch those, and like I say, we're doing this long enough to know when people are likely to light a fire on sites or pieces of ground that have been cleared. So we do target our resources to hit that.
Really well, Paul. Thank you. Okay, that was just an information item. So we move on to agenda item number 4 in the environmental service report. And I'll hand this over to Barry for his report. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Chair. Evening, members. So 4.1 is a collection of events that are scheduled to go on in parks and open spaces in the borough in 2023. We thought we would try to bring this, members, as opposed to bringing 2 every month or 3 every month, and also with the number of committees obviously restricted over the next couple of months. There's a series. Each of the events, there's a detail there on the appendix that talks about the event, when it's going to happen, what it includes, etc. But generally, well, all the paperwork is completed for that. Officers are content that there's no issues with any of these, and officers will obviously work up to the events to make sure that everything's in place in relation to health and safety. So really just happy to take any thoughts and comments, or we certainly need a recommendation for that.
Thank you, Barry. As I don't see any hands. No, happy enough with that. So we move on to.
Sorry, Chair, you need it agreed.
Sorry?
You need it.
Oh, I agreed. Everybody agreed on that. Right. Thank you. Proposer and a seconder. We have a proposal from Alderman Mutry and Councillor Macaulay. Thank you. 4.2, Barry, I'll hand you back again.
4.2 is the use of Lurgan Park for a car park on the 12th of July. Again, the detail is there for elected members. It has been used before when the demonstration has been held in Lurgan. Officers have no particular concerns with it. There's also a map attached to where the car parks will be. We have went through all the paperwork and again set up before you, members, for a decision on granting this as it sits before you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Alderman Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm happy to propose that they get the use of the park for the car park on the 12th. Thank you.
Alderman Burns. Alderman Mutry.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'm very happy to second. This was done 13 years ago whenever the 12th demonstration was last held in Lurgan, and it alleviated what could have been a very potential bottleneck in Windsor Avenue in Lurgan, and it made life a lot easier for those who wanted to attend the demonstration and to watch it, but also for those who didn't, were able to make their way around the town a lot easier. So very happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Mutry. So you have that to be voted on a seconder. Happy enough. So we move on to 4.3. And again, back to you, Barry.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So the 4.3 is a pilot project for glasses, and I'll state this at the start. We're talking about spectacle glasses, not drinking glasses. They're reused via recycling centres. So the recommendation is that we run a pilot project with the Lions Club that is based in Newcastle. They would be the people who would look after the glasses, take them away. It then goes to various places before they end up in Africa. So this is a worthwhile thing. It reduces waste to landfill, obviously. It is reusing. And generally it gives people an outlet for those glasses, spectacles that they have that either are broken or damaged, or they just want a new pair. There's very little cost to council in relation to a few bins at the recycling centres, but it is a very positive project in relation to environmental things to do, and also it's fairly easy to do. So really, officers would recommend that this would be accepted and members make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Councillor Macaulay.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Barry. No, I'm more than happy to propose this. I think it's a great initiative and a very much successful project right across the British Isles to date. So, no, more than happy to propose.
Thank you, Councillor Macaulay. Councillor Flaherty.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second this proposal. And Barry, I have a drawer full of glasses in my house. Now that I'm on old lady varifocals, I have plenty to distribute to you, so I'll probably be first in the queue. Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Macaulay. Alderman Baxter.
Yeah, I was okay, Chair. I was only going to second that as well, so it's been done. Happy to support. Thank you.
Baxter, thank you. So that's Jill and Julie. Yep, thank you. The next item is 4.4, information item. Again, back to you, Barry. 4.4.
Just an information item for members to be aware. We bring this every year. It's just before you as to put that in your diaries. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Chair. 4.5, it's an update on the Queen's Green Canopy project. It has been a great success, as members I'm sure will know with the pictures and publicity that we've had. So as of writing the report, we had given out 3,485 trees. That has went up and still goes up because we have still some trees that people have registered for and we weren't able to get them out, and we are going through that process. They were given out at the recycling centres. Really want to commend the work that was done by the community people in the council, the biodiversity team, communications, the multimedia team, the recycling centre staff, as well as the parks and community centres, and our Lord Mayor, who's involved in a number of days as well. So a real success, and it will mean a huge benefit to the borough in relation to the number of trees planted, which I think we all could agree is a very good thing to be doing. So just really wanted to update members on the success of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry, for that report. Councillor McIlrath.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, listen, just simply to pass on my thanks to council staff for a fantastic project. Almost, what was it? Almost 7,000, heading towards 7,000 packs given out. I think it was my former colleague, Councillor Crosby, is that what you call him? Councillor Crosby, brought this forward, and it has been an outstanding success. A lot of great positive feedback on the ground, and it's great to see. And I just want to put on record my thanks to the staff who rolled this out. I know it probably was a little bit delayed getting out, but it was nevertheless fantastic scheme and well worth it. So yeah, just to pass on those comments, Barry. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McIlrath. Alderman Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and just to echo all the comments, I think anytime we're planting trees can only be a good thing. And I think, you know, it's been a fantastic initiative. And as I'm reading through the report there, it was word of mouth really that got it out even more than the social media once people started to see, and it really took off. The only thing I would ask, I know it says in the report there about 10 or 11 people have posted photographs to the website. I'm wondering those who registered for trees, could we send up a follow-up email? I don't know if they'd be in a mail shot just to encourage them maybe to upload the photographs. And I'm guilty of it myself. Like I got a level trees I've planted and I never photographed them and sent them back in. So maybe just a wee reminder, and then we'll be able to see in catalogue actually where those went. If it's easy to do, Barry, I think.
Thank you, Alderman. Mary say, Barry, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, as you say, if we can do that, we will do it. The other thing is we are going to promote it in social media just to remind people. Once we sort of had a conversation with yourselves, we go back out and say it's great that we have all these trees out and remind people to do that. But that's another thought we could do. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Councillor Flaherty.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, look, just to echo all you said, the thanks really must go out to all the departments. I think there's probably about 5 departments involved in this project, and they've all worked really well together. And it just, like most of you, some of you, or most of you will know by now, I'm a gardener, so I have mine in. And I did just this morning actually upload the photograph. It actually is easy to do. If I can do it, anybody can do it. The wee leaflet was very useful that went out with them, and everything was explained quite well. And yeah, if I can do it, anybody can do it on a phone. So that to me, I think, is the issue now, really, is making sure that the great legacy of these trees and the great number that was taken up within our borough leaves a lasting legacy and is marked in the proper way by getting them onto the website and getting them uploaded. So then we can really see the legacy that this is going to leave for in the round for everything. It'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Flaherty. So as that was an item for noting, and we are now moving into confidential business. And can I ask for a proposal and a seconder to go into committee? Yeah. And committee for consideration for the confidential items of business. Members and online viewers, in accordance with the Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into a confidential session of the Council. This means that we will be turning off the public feed to the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can I ask ICT officers to please turn off the feed and confirm with me when the confidential section of this meeting can proceed? Thank you. Item number 6 is correspondence, and we have no correspondence. No correspondence. Item number 7, any other business? Yes, we have one item under AOB, and I am going to bring in Councillor Johnson for this item.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to raise the topic of a possible reusable nappy incentive scheme for our council. And if a report could be brought back in due course to committee regarding a possible setup of that and the viability of one and sort of how it works in other neighbouring local councils. I think the scheme is quite widely available in other council areas and set up in the past couple of years. And I think it would run quite well alongside our Don't Rubbish Our Future campaign that was released last year. And just that it would be quite environmentally and financially beneficial for council to set one up and sort of benefit many families with young children who do want to use reusable nappies and sort of save money in these, especially in these times. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Barry, do you want to say anything on this?
Yes, Chair. I'm happy to bring a report back on that. We had looked at it in years past, but it's been a number of years since we looked at it. So I'll certainly refresh those reports and bring them up to date and bring them back to members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. That concludes business for tonight's meeting. So we should all a safe journey home. For those at home already, have a good night. Thank you.